quarterback room this off season. Are you able to tell us if this is an open competition? What would you consider the state of the quarterback room?
Yeah, I'd say it's a really competitive room, and it's in a much better shape, which is our goal as a staff for an entire roster, but each position group to try to make them more competitive and more balanced throughout each year. And that room is by far the best it's been since we've been here. And so we're excited about camp coming up to see these guys fully healthy compete.
How would you assess kind of Jackson's attitude ever since, bringing in Spencer Sanders and other talent? Because you said how much he's improved in the spring, but his attitude towards, that room getting more crowded.
Yeah, I think Jackson's done an amazing job. He had a great spring from a play standpoint, from a leadership standpoint, from improvement, throwing the ball better than he ever has. So I think he's gonna have a great camp.
Austin Simmons is, pretty unique situation. When he went up 2 classes, was that a conversation y'all had, or was he just kind of like, hey coach, I'm going to be here this fall?
No, there was a lot of conversations with that, and they had explored that option and had kind of already been on track to do that at another school. So they were headed that direction, but still it was open. They had not reclassified yet. It was still open that he could stay. So there were a lot of conversations. We're excited he decided to come. Very talented player with tremendous upside, and a great baseball player also.
Well, I know it was around this time last year you were talking about trying to create a cohesive culture, especially kind of during that fall period. When you look back on this, the fall period 22 and going into this one, do you approach it any differently, or just kind of
Yeah, I don't have that exact answer. I think that, and I said this, I believe, at the beginning of free agency when this whole thing was set up, that you're gonna have some culture challenges as you flip your roster like this, and some of it's in control, some of it's out of control because kids leave. So it's not ideal to have 40 scholarships of your 85 guys brand new, but it is what it is. It was a challenge last year, one that I don't think I handled well at the end. I think at this time a year ago probably jinxed myself in saying, when you have culture issues like it, just like when in professional sports like NBA, you see these dream teams put together, then when a season doesn't start go well, it's very challenging for them to play really well. And I think that happened some with us with, 8-1 with the ball going in to potentially go to 9-1 to beat Alabama, and then we lose 4 straight. So I think that's a big challenge when you have so many new guys. Once things don't go the way that they want them to go, keeping everybody together, because you don't have years of that team being together.
You said that's a challenge, but have there been, other ways of navigating this that have gotten kind of easier for you in this whole era of free agency? Like, have you adjusted at all, you think? And yeah, how's that all gone? Like, you kind of mentioned some of it there, but.
Yeah, the great part is coaches can fill needs quicker than before, obviously. So to have kind of free agency twice a year, really, the good part of that is to be able to fill voids quicker than you used to be able to, and it would take a lot longer if you lost a lot of players that year to the draft or injury, or there weren't many transfers back then, but it took you longer to build those spots because you had to do it basically through high school kids or maybe junior college. So there obviously is good and bad to it.
Having had time to kind of assess and look back at the spring, how do you feel the status, kind of the defense overall is heading into fall with just Golden now maybe fully installing what he wants to?
Yeah, I think we have a lot of work to do there. We had some significant players injured in the spring, including Cedric, who's here today. So, and a lot of new staff over there. So that's a huge challenge for us in this camp coming up, is to get everything installed, get all the moving parts, and get to figure out who we're going to play.
I know you said this spring that one of your goals there was to kind of attack the portal, get some personnel to kind of facilitate that change in system. Do you feel like you did what you needed to do do there?
What specific area? Or did you
Just the defense in general. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were pretty tireless at looking everywhere. because we had a lot of needs and a lot of number issues over there, especially in the back end with transfers and departures. So there's a lot of new people, including some that weren't here and here for the spring. So that's going to be a big challenge, putting all those pieces together.
You brought in some top recruits out of the state of Mississippi, Aiden Williams, Centurion Perkins. Do you see a situation where those guys are playing pretty early? And where do you see Perkins fitting in, in what position?
Yeah, both those guys, we hope that they play this year and have significant roles. They're both really talented. They both have hit the ground running here in the off season, trying to learn everything, and both are at a position of need. So we have very high expectations for both of them.
Where do you expect Perkins to play?
Linebacker.
In your past, you've really relied on, like when you had Derrick Henry at Alabama, you really used him. Same with Amari Cooper. With Quinnen Sean, is he the kind of guy that you can put a large portion of the offensive load on his back and sort of let him carry it?
Yeah, I think we saw that, which is pretty amazing for a true freshman to be able to carry as much as anybody in the SEC. So kind of done that, not to the extent Derrick's, I think, all-time SEC leading carries that year. But I think if we have to, he could do it.
What's the status of Xavier? I know Oxford put up that release yesterday. Have y'all had talks, or where's that stand?
Yeah, we've been on top of that. Those are internal matters, and when we get disciplined and get all the information in, we'll go from there.
You had a lot of guys limited in the spring or even out in the spring. Spencer was kind of halfway. How are you from a health standpoint going into camp?
There's still some issues there. I'll give you a full report that first day, but Spencer's 100%, which he looked really good, as you guys saw in the spring game, and so we're excited about that because he was not 100%, during spring ball.
You talk about Quinnen Sean, and you always talk about rat poison, the Nick Saban deal, and with a guy like that, I mean, there's got to be a ton of that everywhere. Have you had any kind of conversations with him about that? Any advice on how to deal with it? And
Yeah, I think that's always a challenge. Coaches, let alone players, young age when they get a lot and a lot of success. And I think now, because of NIL, that challenge is even bigger. Now you're giving kids money early on also, on top of all the credit and everyone telling them how great they are and the records and all those things. So that is a really big challenge, and even though he's mature and has done a great job, we have to stay on top of that, because that's all over. I mean, you just study when people get a lot really early, and I don't worry about with him. I was just thinking on the plane over, these NILs are getting so big for the kids, which is great, but there is a concern too. If you have everything, then what are you really working for? And that won't be some of the kids, because it won't matter because of their drive, but that happens in a lot of people. So I think there's a little concern with that too, because one of their big motives to playing well, to working really hard, is to get to the NFL to make the money. So, but it is what it is.
Talking more about character, I know that there are some players that aren't playing all the time, but they're really leading people in the locker room. Is there someone you've seen break out in practices recently that's just really leading others well?
I think Eli Acker does a great job for us, of someone who started at times for us and rotated in, but really does a great job with our guys leading in the off season.
Talking about leadership, how has Jackson evolved kind of in the last year in that regard?
Well, Jackson's a little bit quiet, so which is fine. There's a lot of great quiet leaders, so he's not really outspoken, but he's a phenomenal listener, and he spends a lot of time with our players, listening and helping them. So it's just kind of a different way to lead maybe than most people think, but I know our players respect him a lot for that.
When you have a guy like Quinnen Sean, who had such a special season and all that, what kind of jump do you want him to make in terms of his own personal improvement, not just for himself, but also for you to utilize him in the offense?
Footwork, pass protection, things that a lot of times as a freshman we're so focused on just getting the ball and running well. The details of the game. Excited to Kevin Smith's back here to work with him, having had such a great career playing position and coached so many guys. So I think that's been a really good situation.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.